Good morning, Bitcoiners. I hope you're doing well. I'm loving my life. Who could complain? Who could complain on a day like today? Nobody. Things are going great. Indeed, things are going great. Other than the time delay between getting the comments. We like to read the comments. We like to give people a chance to come in. We read the comments. We talk about the start of the show. We talk about the sun and that Bitcoin's running. It's all to give people a chance to come in. But that's my one complaint about the Rumble Studio software. Too slow on comments. There we go. YouTube first, weirdly. Christine, good morning. Glad you made it, Christine. Glad you made it. Hope you're doing well. Aqualodge. Good morning, indeed. We got coffee. We got a sunrise. It's all happening today. Everything's happening the way we predicted, right? The sun came up as predicted. Bitcoin's running as predicted, right? Things are going great. Who could complain? Who could complain? Indeed. My P-Man says, good morning, all you lovely people. And the count, of course. I got to meet P-Man Van in person the other day at Bitcoin Canada. Here in Montreal, he came to a little party and we chatted. It was great. Glad I could spend some time with you, P-Man Van. Good morning, Bitcoin Deb. Good morning, my dears. Indeed. Good morning, my dears. I hope you're all doing well. Every day, walking with Christ, loving life. God bless all you Bitcoin maxis. We're winning no matter how many other ETFs. Yeah, we're not worried about the other ETFs, guys. Don't worry about that. That's a lot of fun. All right, that's a lot of fun. Again, we need ETH to be a bigger scam, guys. It's not big enough. Not even close. The potential of ETH to take down all of Wall Street is there. Don't you understand? It's there. We could do it. ETH could achieve it. We got the prestige of the Wall Street banker. They're going to go all in on ETH. It's going to be the best. It's going to be the best. We got to do it. More. We need more ETH. We need all the ETFs. I want Dogecoin ETF. I want everything you can imagine. Any coin you can come up with. The Geo or Geo Boden. I want that one to have an ETF. I want them all to have an ETF. There's just no end to the ETFs. I want max ETFs. All right, max ETFs. All right, everybody. I think we got enough of us in the room so we can acknowledge we got a sunrise. Bitcoin's running. All that's left for us to do is have a coffee, talk about what's new. As you know, we like to start every morning with Moscow time. The fakest news we could find, right? The fakest news we can find. Now, the theme I've been going with, right? It's really hot. It's hot in India and other places, right? The news letting us know about heat waves during the summer. We love it. It's perfect, right? So here are the new ones. It's a whole new genre of Moscow time. Ready? This is from the Washington Post. The brutal heat in Mexico. It's hot in Mexico now. Mexico's hot. The brutal heat in Mexico is causing howler monkeys to drop dead from trees. Veterinarians are racing to save this heat-stricken primate still clinging to life after nearly 150 monkeys have died. Sad. It's sad. They interviewed someone there, a veterinarian. This is what he said. It's the saddest thing to have them stretch out their little hands to you as if to say, please help me. I'm dying. I'm not laughing, okay? If you laughed at home, you're an evil person. Here's the kicker, right? Told the Washington Post. And more heartbreaking yet is to think that we humans have contributed to this disaster. We're killing the monkeys in Mexico because it's hot. It's hot in Mexico, everyone. Mexico is hot. CBS, it's not enough the Washington Post covered it. We got more. CBS News. Monkeys are dropping dead from trees in Mexico as a brutal heat wave is linked to mass deaths. Mass deaths in Mexico. We're not done. There's more in Mexico. They call it a heat dome, right? There's a heat dome, sweltering temperatures in Mexico. There's a heat dome, everyone. Mexico's hot. All right. All right. So we got Mexico. Now we know it's hot. Thank God we know it's hot in Mexico. Thank God we know it's hot in Mexico. Where else is it hot? Let's see. CTV News saying doctors treat, get this, hundreds of victims of heat stroke in Pakistan. After a heat wave, it's Pakistan. Hundreds of people, hundreds have heat stroke in Pakistan. It's super hot. It's news. Hot in Pakistan. India's always got to make it in here, all right? Because it's always hot in India. Bloomberg Energy says India wastes more food than almost any other country in the world, partly because of spotty refrigeration. So, you know, it's partly they admit it's because they don't really have refrigeration everywhere in hot India. But they got to let you know the real reasons, right? It's really because of heat waves and climate change combined are making the problem worse, okay? So it's changing so fast in India that it's hot now, and they couldn't buy enough refrigerators to keep up with the increase in the temperatures. That's what's going on here, right? This is good now. Now, dangerous brew. Ocean heat and La Nina combo likely mean more Atlantic hurricanes this summer, right? So they're saying there's going to be more. There's a whole bunch of people saying there's more hurricanes coming. We got this other one too. This hurricane season could be among the worst in decades, NOAA warns. They do this every year. Every year we can go back. This year is the worst hurricane year ever, according to all these people. So we got more though. We're not done. We're not done. There's a lot of worry about the weather right now. A lot, right? This is from the LA Times. How much worse will extreme heat get by 2050? New report outlines worrisome future. So it's been getting hot, but soon in 2050, it's going to be hotter, right? So what are they going to say about India then? India has no food. It's too hot, okay? So now, you know, they can have the hot ones. We've been talking about the hot, right? It's hot in India. It's hot in Thailand. It's hot in Pakistan. It's hot in Mexico, all right? Well, this is in the same vein, but it's not about hot. Okay, this is from the BBC. They wrote this yesterday. Climate change made UK's waterlogged winter worse. It made it worse, right? How did it make it worse? Well, they say that they had more rain. There's more rain now in England. More, okay? It's England. It didn't rain before, I guess, but now it rains there. So much more because of climate change. That's what they're saying. All right, this is good too. This is more into the south of the United States, right? So here's what they got in the United States. A hidden threat, okay? Fast rising, so they're talking here about the American South, okay? The U.S. South, okay? Where it's also hot. There's news today. It's hot in the U.S. South. On Memorial Day weekend, no less. A heat wave in America, in the American South, on Memorial Day weekend. Climate change. So this is good. So a hidden threat. And then they call it the drought. So there's three headlines, right? It's a feature piece. They got a picture. This is what's going on here, right? They got a feature piece, right? It's a hidden threat. So they got a big color picture, right? And the first headline is the drowning South, okay? The second, a hidden threat. The drowning South, a hidden threat. Fast rising seas could swamp septic systems in parts of the South. Now, what's going on here? What's the fast rising sea on the east coast of the United States? Which one is that? I don't know. Is it the ocean? So the east coast is, we'll see. I don't know. But I guess you're not going to be able to have a septic tank. It's over. It's over. It's no more. There's no more. And this headline is right in line with that, right? This is the Washington Post. So now this is a little different. This is about what happens if you lose your septic system. So it's about insurance, right? So the Washington Post letting you know, thanks to inflation and climate change, homeowners are getting less money back from their insurers to repair and build. Okay. It's inflation and climate change, guys. Okay. Remember, they go together. Okay. They're the same thing. So good. Oh yeah, back to India. 7 dead in South India after heavier than normal pre-monsoon rains. Normal, okay? There's the normal pre-monsoon rains, and then there's the not normal pre-monsoon rains, right? Average. There you go. So we got more, though. There's one more I'm missing here. This is an important one, right? This comes from a report from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which is called FEMA in America. And what do they say? Climate change risk for LGBT people in the United States, right? So climate change risk for the LGBT, but I'm really confused. I don't know what to do next because I don't know about the Q and the plus and the others. What's going on? Is it just LBGT? I got to read the report. I don't know. I don't know if the whole list is getting worse. Climate change risk, worse for LGBT. Maybe the Q is okay. Maybe if you're just a queer, it's okay. I don't know. I don't know the answer, right? So we got to find out. I don't know why they're not included in here. That sounds like discrimination. So I don't know. We got to find out. Got to read it. Got to find out what's going on. All right. So I got a few more here. That's our weather news for the day, right? There's your weather news. Right? But there's a couple other headlines out there that are pretty funny today. Okay, there's some that are pretty funny. This one comes from the Daily Mail. Right, so these are in no particular order. They're just funny things that happened today. Biden's daughter Ashley has finally admitted her diary about showers with dad, as well as fears she was molested, is real. So Maureen Callahan demands, "What is the truth, Joe?" Right, so that's actually in the headlines today. That's one of the headlines. That's just a headline today. What's going on? What's going on? We also got this one from the Toronto Star. This one's pretty good. Meet the controversial trad wife influencers glamorizing regressive female roles. Because it's progressive to be worked to death and pass out with a pizza in your face on the subway at night and go home to an empty house. That's progressive, okay? Going back to your empty apartment with your cats and your wine with pizza slimed on your face and working extra hours at the law firm, that's progressive. That's progressive. I love those women are the best. They're just the best. This one's good too. This is from the Associated Press. I don't know if you've seen this, but everyone's all, I have no interest in this case, in this story, so that's why you're not hearing it other than the fake news version. It's the judge, Alito, whose wife, I guess, put her flag upside down or something. Everyone, there's all kinds of stupid people upset about it. He should quit the Supreme Court because of it, because of the election denying. But here's the Associated Press headline. The appeal to, so there's another flag there, which is an old George Washington flag, which is kind of like the tree from the Lebanese flag. It's not the same tree. It's a different pine, but anyway, it's a tree. We actually have that pine now on the Montreal flag. The Montreal flag, by the way, one of the most beautiful flags you're ever going to see. I was never one of those Canadian people that put the Canadian flag on my bag. These NPCs. I'm from Canada. I'm going around the world. Check me out, right? I've got a backpack. I never did that. It's very stupid. But I did keep a Montreal flag so that maybe if a Canadian said hi to me, I could tell them to fuck off, right? Get the fuck out of here. So the Montreal flag is beautiful. It's the St. George's cross. So it's the English flag, the white with the red background. And then they put the 4 founding peoples of Montreal, each get a flower in each of the corners. So there's the Irish clover, the 4-leaf clover. There's the French fleur-de-lis. So the one you see on all the French royal stuff on the Quebec flag, which you might be able to see back there. I have a Quebec flag usually flying back there somewhere. Might be hidden by this pillar. Then it's got the Scottish thistle, which is like a purple flower. and the English rose. So those are the 4 in each quarter. But they also put the white pine in the middle recently for the Mohawk people, the original. And they're still here. We've got a beautiful Mohawk reserve, and you can go get cheap gas there, and they don't do any crazy shit like no vaccines or anything like that. Cool people, really fun. And by the way, Katie Hochul has been banned from all of those reserve lands in New York because that tribe actually goes through into New York. And so she's banned from any the governor of New York is banned now from these reserves. I go there all the time. We love it. My dad actually got kind of a token from a local, which is sort of like almost like your accepted passport in these areas. So he handed that down to me when he passed a few weeks ago. So that's one of the things I got. It's one of these things that if you show in this area, they'll be like, okay, cool. He had vacationed with a few people down there of the Mohawk folks. Very cool people. I've got a few Mohawk friends in my life. Always fun. But they just live over there. So I'm glad that they put it into the flag. It looks like anyway, so the headline with the Appeal to Heaven, I didn't read the headline. It's excellent. So the Appeal to Heaven flag is got this sort of pine tree in the middle, and then it says on top, Appeal to Heaven, right? It's written on the flag. So the Associated Press letting us know the Appeal to Heaven flag evolves from a Revolutionary War symbol to banner of the far right. Ba, ba, ba. So there you go. It's now a banner of the far right, okay? Even though the pine has nothing to do with it. That's very good. So this is good too. This is from CNN about the stupid jurors, right? A jury of your stupid peers, right? We love Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash network. We're all into peerage, right? We're all into having peers. A jury of your peers, pretty good, right? What are they telling us in CNN? What is the judge telling us in the fake boxes hoax, the boxes hoax? After one hearing in the Trump classified documents case devolves into a shouting match, the judge says the case may be too difficult for jurors to understand. Stupid jurors, just idiots, just dumb fuckers, right? All right, now this is our last one for the day, and you got to pay attention to this one. Well, it's combined actually. So first of all, CNN letting us know that the number of young people in the US who are prescribed GLP-1 agonist drugs like Wegovy and Ozempic for weight loss and diabetes soared by nearly 600%. That's like Bitcoin growth in just 3 years, according to new research, right? So even though it's grown 600%, right? And we're finding out that 600%, and by the way, one of those companies is now the biggest company in Europe, I guess. The guy who make the company from Denmark or Finland, one of these Scandinavian places. It's now the most valuable company in Europe. So American fatness has created a super rich company in Europe. Great. We're doing great in America. See, American exceptionalism is real. Okay. You can build an amazing European fat drug company off of American exceptionalism. It's possible. It's very possible. Here we go. This one is this is related to it though. So even though they've had 600% growth, right? What's going on with all that money? 600% growth. Well, looks like they're buying articles, sponsored content in The Economist. But I thought The Economist was such a credible magazine. This is what we know. A new generation of diabetic drugs, including Ozempic, has shown remarkable weight loss benefits. What other conditions can these medicines treat? Eating the world. Scientists are finding that anti-obesity drugs can also help treat many other diseases. Oh my goodness. But what's this? What's this? Is it a sponsored content? Take the drugs. It could cure everything. It's amazing, right? So the reason I bring this up as our final addition to Moscow Time this morning is because you will eat the bugs, ladies, and be alone. Eat the bugs, ladies. The reason I'm bringing it up is because it's about a business model, right? So The Economist has a business model. We know that it has a business model. The business model is many things, right? But in a normal business model, you got to make money. So they're out there trying to make money, right? Which is great. Good for them. Right. I've been in the media game for a long time. I've seen how difficult it is for media companies to make money. And if they got to sell sponsorships, that's not the problem necessarily, right? The problem can almost be when they don't sell sponsorships, when they don't try to make money. At least they're out there trying to make money. And that, to me, just like I said, follow the money should be your first filter that you put on any one of these news stories. The second one is once you can either see or not see the money enough, you've got to start filling in the blanks. And I use incompetence over malice as a general rule in order. If I can't tell the money, then the next layer is first assume incompetence. Then if you can rule out incompetence, then you can go towards malice, and then you can start seeing, what's going on with all this stuff. Now, the reason I'm saying The Economist, at least saying it's a sponsored article, at least makes it predictable. You get it, right? This company made so much money, Ozempic or whatever, like I said. Now they're going to write these sponsored articles. They mention it's sponsored. It's not evil, right? It's a little bit incompetent because The Economist doesn't know how to make money despite its huge readership base and all that stuff. But I can't say it's malice. I can't say it's evil, right? Well, the next story, and it's related to these business models, might be evil. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but we know follow the money does give us an answer. And we can't exactly call Jeff Bezos incompetent. Right? He might be the smartest American going. I mean, maybe. I mean, he's up there anyway. He's one of those people that if he has an opinion on something and it differs from mine, I'll check my own opinion for if it's accuracy, right? He's one of the smartest people out there that would make me doubt almost any one of my opinions if his opinion differs from mine. Elon Musk would be in that category. Scott Adams would be in that category. I'd put a bunch of people in that category, right? Where if I disagree with them, I'll look at myself first, right? I'll look at myself first. And that doesn't mean I'm afraid to disagree with these people. That's not what I mean, right? It's just that I have a lot of respect for their intelligence and their intellect and their ability to think rationally, deductively, right? All of that stuff is real. But when you see these stories about Jeff Bezos, right? When you see this business model, now again, we've been trying to think, we've been following this for a long time. Does Jeff Bezos think it's like a great business idea? He's on the cutting edge of everything. Is it a great business idea to lose millions of dollars a year? Right. We just found out that, of course, the Washington Post with the new CEO the other day mentioned, he was just hired in the job, mentioned about all the money they've lost. Right. But didn't really talk too much about it. Doesn't matter. Right. Here's what we know. This comes from Info Battle Maiden. Right. If you or anyone you know who has an Amazon Alexa, you need to hear this. Jeff Bezos has a deal with the CIA. Jeff Bezos, the richest guy in the world, sits on a Pentagon board and has a $600 million deal with the CIA. Joe Rogan says, wait, what? $600 million with the CIA? Is Amazon Alexa just gathering up information on everything you do? Yes, it is. One guy wrote something about Amazon. He got disciplined. He criticized Jeff Bezos treats his workers. I've talked to someone who actually worked there. So say an order comes in. They literally have a countdown on their tablet. I don't know what the amount of time is, but you have to run and find that product and get it in the box and get it shipped out. I go, you run. He goes, yeah, you literally run. Well, they also have these new things, the wristbands that shock you. No way. Are you serious? Yeah. If you're moving the wrong way, it'll shock you back. So here's what we know from Info Battle Maiden. The same year Bezos was awarded the CIA contract under Obama, he bought the Washington Post for $250 million. WAPO ended up being a de facto contractor publisher for the CIA to get out anti-Trump propaganda. So again, we don't, there's this business model here, right? We don't know what the contours are of it exactly. But we do know that, again, go back to my filter, follow the money. Is Jeff Bezos getting into the Washington Post for the money? Is he out for some money? He's losing money. So that doesn't explain it, right? Now, the next filter that I put is this incompetence versus malice. He's not incompetent. Now, the malice part is, yesterday we were talking about exactly this formula, and Daniel mentioned that you got to put blackmail in there. I think blackmail fits into these two questions perfectly, right? Follow the money. If it's not incompetence after, it could be something like malice or something like blackmail, right? You can't really tell the difference, but in the end, it doesn't matter. You don't have to tell the difference. It's not incompetence. You follow the money. That doesn't explain the incentives. That doesn't explain the motivations. That doesn't explain what's going on. Is he out for the CIA contract? Probably not. Does $600 million mean much to someone like Jeff Bezos? I don't think it means anything, right? $600 million is couch change. It's not real, right? It wouldn't make a difference. What difference would $600 million make in the quality of life of someone like that? It's not even the cost of a super cool yacht, right? Like it's nothing to him, right? So that's why we can see that the feedback loops in media are heavily compromised by either blackmail or some form of subversive force that's gotten into it. We can see in Disney, it's the same thing, right? In Disney, you have the same thing. How is it possible that Disney is losing $628 million a year? Does it make any sense? Does it in any world make sense for a company like Disney? Now they have to go out and warn their shareholders, guys, we're not trying to make money. We're not trying to make money. The same thing happened to me with CoinDesk, by the way, right? So in 2019, the reason why Barry Silbert bought me out of CoinDesk was not an evil one at all. He basically said, I own this media company. We're not going to try and make money off of it. We want this to be a public service for the industry. I will be willing to lose money on this, and it won't matter because the industry requires a credible news source that can help tell these stories. Now, as someone who owned a little bit of the company, had helped make a lot of money for the company, we had a pretty full balance sheet when I was bought out. He bought me out at a level higher than the company was even sold for last year. So it was like stupid to say no offer. But I've seen wealthy people say that about media companies. The industry needs it. It's got to do this stuff. And now that makes sense, right? Barry was making enough money off of Grayscale and DCG and all that other stuff that it didn't matter, right? He wanted this service to exist for the industry. And you can see he's credible because in the end, he put me in charge of the editorial air gap between the parent company and the media company. And it played out pretty honestly in the sense that guess who destroyed the parent company? CoinDesk. They did all the SBF stories, right? CoinDesk broke the FTX and SBF story. They've won 1 million journalism awards because of that. And the fires that were caused by CoinDesk going into the story burnt the parent company, made him, it lost a lot of money. So much so that he had to sell CoinDesk, right, to pay the debts. So it was as honest as you're going to find that situation. And for me, who was on the inside of it, it played out exactly as you would imagine, right? Exactly as I've explained. There was nothing untoward or it was exactly what you'd imagine. A rich person wanted this media company to function for the betterment of the industry. It did in the end, and he had to pay the real consequences of that because what they did in journalism destroyed the company. But that's not what's going on with Disney, right? Disney is out there telling this was a private company. He owned all of it. He could do whatever he felt like. It was his company. Me and the others, there was only a handful of us. We owned a tiny amount. We couldn't stop him. We couldn't tell him anything, right? He was by far the majority owner of the company. And all the other stuff was just like incentives for us to feel a part of it. It was never enough for us to determine what the company did, what direction it took, none of that stuff, right? It was a private company he owned. Disney is not a private company that he owned, that Bob Iger or anyone else owns. It's a public company. You can buy shares. And as a public company, you can't do what Barry did, right? You have an obligation, a fiduciary obligation to your shareholders, which is why we know that Disney always warns them that they're going to be losing money when they have to file all of these disclosure statements to their public investors. They have told them many times now. They've been telling them for over a year, we're not trying to make money. We're trying to do the woke stuff, right? So when Barry told me we're not trying to make money, he was a private business owner and he wasn't to do the woke stuff. It was to do real journalism without fearing consequences of investigations and all that stuff. But again, it's a private company. It's his prerogative. He could do whatever he wants. A public company like Disney cannot do that unless they're backstopped by some other force, right? How is it that a public company doesn't worry about losing money? Just like the Washington Post. They don't care. They don't care, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars. In this case, 4 movies alone last year almost lost, and this is not even an accurate number, right? Because they don't really report on the costs of movies accurately. There's no one way to get the cost of a movie. This is our best guess based on what we know were the revenues for the movies versus what we know were the costs, which they have to report to get tax reductions, which in the end don't help them that much. So the business model itself is what's important here. And the business model to spread propaganda, the way it's been done can only happen if you have the deep state actors that don't allow for any feedback loop in the money itself to determine whether or not this is working, whether it's clicking. You can tell the difference between pure propaganda when you start accounting for this hidden money and this desire to not make money, right? This desire to not make money has to be backstopped by something. Something has to be there has to be some input in here. It's not just the virtue signaling of Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, or any of these people. Something else is going on, which is the reason why I continue to think that art is one of the big vectors, one of the big industries that Bitcoiners need to dominate next. It's why I write science fiction stories. It's why I'm interested in all this entertainment piece. Bitcoiners have to dominate the entertainment industry next. We dominate the financial industry. We're going to dominate the energy industry. The other pillar that we need to dominate is art and culture. And I think we're going to do it. We're getting there, right? We need to show how to finance better art, which is the project that I'm launching, the project that I'm raising money for and building and trying to model myself with my own stories and all this stuff. So it's really important that we win this fight. It's really important that we are not just the wealthiest on Wall Street, that we're also the most creative, the most entertaining. We have the largest audience of mentally healthy people who like actual entertainment, not propaganda. This will be a big deciding factor in how we win this war, because it's a psychological war. And having people interested in good culture, good art, good entertainment is a big part of that, right? So it's the reason why I never get all upset about ordinals and all that stuff. Now, I can agree some of the art is shit, right? But that's the time we live in. That has nothing to do with it, right? There is a need for Bitcoiners to get into the content creation world and win it. And there's some tech advantage there. Now, I'm not arguing for a fork or anything stupid like that, right? But what's important is that we get all this energy that's bound up with the NFTs and the creatives and all that, and we make sure it's working in our direction, not funding these fucking losers, right? We've got to show return on investment. We've got to show a better business model in order to win this stuff. And we will, right? And we're doing it already. It's already happening. You can see it out there. And simultaneous to that, the business model of the deceitful architecture of deceit is falling apart, right? So you can go further and you can see that. Oh, no, that's another story. I'll get to that one in a second. This is my, I bring this because you can actually see now, we're going to talk about the Trump thing in a second. You can actually see Jake Tapper. I wanted to bring this image because this is what he does when he's having trouble persuading you. He starts putting on this like, why aren't you paying attention to me? Please. When he does normal news, he sits like this, but when he has trouble and he wants to help persuade you, he starts going. So that's why I put that picture. Anyway, they're out of order. I want to go back to the business model conversation here. And the business model conversation, I just mentioned about Disney, and they don't care if they lose money, and the Washington Post, they don't care if they lose money. Now, I go back to the prediction I made on Jeff Bezos. I think he is going to skedaddle on these guys. Whether he's being blackmailed or not, he's got to make a choice. He's got to shit or get off the can, and he's got to pick a winner here in this fight. And I don't think he can stay with the losers, right? So again, I continue to predict he's going to make some bold move to defect from these psychopaths, and I think Bitcoin is going to be part of his defection. So part of the signal of the defection. So there you go. An important factor. Now let's go back to the business model. So this comes from the, so we've learned about how they're having trouble with these business models, these CIA rigged business models that persuade and brainwash people. But there's great news, right? I think it's the next one. No, what happened? Did I not have it? Yes, it got skipped. I knew it. Okay, the Jake Tapper one got skipped because this was supposed to be next. So what we have here is the Media Matters group, right? So this is one of those censorship business model things you heard about from Mike Benz, right? Who really did follow the money and showed you this exact filter. The filter that I'm giving you, this follow the money followed by incompetence over malice, really comes from watching Mike Benz's work, right? That's the best way to interpret it. So think about this business model, think about following the money, then incompetence over malice, but the malice is there. And so he's done that with things like Media Matters, right? So Media Matters now having to lay a bunch of people off because the business model is broken. People are figuring out how this thing works and they're calling it what it is. So now Media Matters, who are getting sued by Elon Musk and others, these are those guys that interject themselves into the middle of these contracts and become the credentialists that say you did propaganda and that's misinformation. But we saw with COVID, we saw with the election, these are the last people you want to trust. These are some of the most deceitful people going. And so Amuse here saying, winning. Media Matters has been defaming conservatives for years with zero accountability. Most recently, federal probes and private litigation have taken their toll on the group. The company has reportedly laid off more than 15% of its staff, and rumor has it more layoffs are coming. And that's what's going on here. Elon and everyone has disrupted their business model, disrupted the cash flows, disrupted how they operate. And that's all you need to do with these folks, right? Will Chamberlain saying Elon didn't put those Media Matters idiots on unemployment line by suing the organization. He did it by restoring free speech on X. Pointing and sputtering only attracts donor money if there's a payoff at the end of it. No deplatforming equals no donations. So there you go. You can find out what's going on with these folks just by looking at that stuff, right? Now, the reason why I even bring this up is because here's an interesting coincidence or symmetry or whatever. Thomas Massie, who we love, right? We love Thomas Massie. He's the guy out there with the legislation to end the Federal Reserve. He's got another one today about eliminating taxpayer-funded online censorship. So it's exactly the Media Matters business model. So he's out here trying to now stop the Media Matters business model and the Federal Reserve. Bitcoiners know they're the same thing. Censorship and bank cartels are the same thing. You need both of them. They're the same side of the same trash token. They work together hand in glove. Again, I've said it many times. Fiat as a concept, as a type of money, requires, because it means government declarations are money. Fiat is government declarations. They require the media to be complicit in the propagation of that network and the consensus behind it, right? It doesn't work otherwise. You take your understanding of how Bitcoin propagates and consensus functions in Bitcoin with 51% required in order to tell the truth or to have an agreement on what the truth is because of the decentralized nature of the ledger. We understand that architecture very well as Bitcoiners. Now, apply that same idea to the fiat propagation, and you understand that it requires a huge consensus of simulacrum fake news to be spread and agreed upon by people. Otherwise, the thing falls apart, right? It doesn't have to be fake. They could have tried it with an honest system, but it required too much discipline and all that stuff. And we know humans are terrible at that. So the system didn't account for human failures like Bitcoin did, right? Bitcoin doesn't ask anything of you. Just be your greedy self and the system will work because of the way the game is rigged, right? Bitcoin's a rigged game. It's a rigged game, but the way it's rigged motivates you to tell the truth and participate as in an adversarial network as an honest actor, not because you're compelled because you've been touched by Jesus or something. It's nothing to do with it, right? You can be a Satan worshiper and it will work just fine, just fine. Well, we probably couldn't deal with too many Satan worshipers, but on a whole, we can handle some of them. So Thomas Massie here saying, I've introduced HR 8519 to eliminate taxpayer funding of online censorship. The Twitter files showed the government colludes with private companies and universities to violate the First Amendment. Congress must use the power of the purse to end this unconstitutional activity. And we've seen it more and more, right? We've got the folks over at Schellenberger and all those guys. Where is it? I don't think I copied this. Well, Schellenberger and all those guys have also followed the money in their Twitter files report today, which is the way the CIA agents went and got jobs with these private industries. And they went through the whole resume career history of Yankowicz, Nina Yankowicz, who was the online czar of misinformation under the Biden administration until she got shooed away. He goes into all of these people, right? The same characters you've seen from Mike Benz. Michael Schellenberger got into a whole list of their entire backgrounds, their entire careers, how it worked, how exactly what Thomas Massie is talking about here happened, right? How did the CIA infect all of these agencies and do what they were not allowed to do by law? Of course, we all know the fake rule, which is the CIA can't do stuff in America, right? They get around it by quitting the CIA and then going to work for private industry, but still working for the CIA, right? So it's a very simple move. So there you go. Funny that Thomas Massie has got both of these bills to eliminate the propaganda arm and eliminate the Federal Reserve at the same time. And again, they have to be destroyed together. They exist together. They are what allows things like the Washington Post, Disney, and all of these others to focus primarily on brainwashing and not on fiduciary duties and what they owe investors and financial accountability. The business model itself has been infected. We need to clean up the business model around art and content creation if we're going to win. We're getting there, right? That's my new focus. That's what I'm working on. I did it with the media companies for years. They're also shit, right? They go to shit. They're companies. They go to shit, right? We got to find a way to do it without companies, without media companies that have to do what The Economist is doing, sponsored content, right? It's always the same stupid thing. It's always the same stupid thing with media companies, even in our industry, even that cover Bitcoin, because we haven't actually figured out the business models that go beyond. We're getting there. It's very close now, right? We've seen it with NFTs. We've seen it with all this stuff. It's very, very close. We're still going through the VC game. I don't think that'll go away, right? That's what I do. Is I'm definitely in the VC game to get funding for this and those kinds of things. But what's important is that the feedback loop and the incentive model is there to create good content, good news, good art, good entertainment. We're getting close, right? And it's going to be better than old Jake Tapper, right? We're not going to be doing this anymore. But please listen to me. It's so hard. Please, I'm Jake Tapper. The people are mean and it's not going well, right? So that's what Jake Tapper's up to. Now, what's fun is that these people are doing this, right? They have to ignore, they got to ignore when news against the narrative comes their way because they don't have to care, right? I scoured the fake news today to try and find what fake news story they would have used for Trump's rally yesterday in the Bronx. Like what was the story they were going to go with, right? Of course, there isn't one. This is the closest I can get. This was published hours after the rally. This was published this morning by the Washington Post. Former President Donald Trump will hold a rally Thursday. So they republished it and retweeted it hours after the event, okay? Will hold a rally. He did hold a rally in the South Bronx, a rare appearance for the GOP presidential candidate in a predominantly Democrat area, and a decision that's already prompting backlash from residents and local politicians. Of course, they can't cover it because it was too big of a success, right? He goes to the Bronx, holds the biggest political rally in years in New York. AOC tried to counter rally him. She got like 25 people to show up and they just talked about weed and like stupid shit, right? So he comes out and this is what we're hearing, right? We get this from, just locals, right? Just locals. He's saying, from what I know, this is the first time a president has actually come to the hood. A Bronx resident applauds Trump for coming to the Bronx, stating that he knows previous presidents have come, but they've never come to the hood like Trump has. The hood like Trump has. The hood, he says. The media will lie and tell you a bunch of people from flyover territory flew into JFK to see Trump in the Bronx. Just know they're lying. These were real New Yorkers who want MAGA. You got other people talking about it. So cynical Publius. And this is the part that I really liked, right? It's not just that Trump came there and talked about it. Yeah, hundreds showed up, right? This is what they say. So Donald Trump held a huge, wildly successful rally in the Bronx today. That itself is in many ways remarkable. But what I find quite noteworthy is not what happened, but what did not happen. Let me explain. This is from cynical Publius. The population of the Bronx is predominantly Black and Hispanic. Like most of America's urban centers, the Bronx suffers from disproportionate amounts of crime, poverty, drug use, and gangs. By the way, I lived in New York City for years. Now, New York's a huge city. It really is crazy big, right? Just so you understand the dimensions. And I've lived in big cities. I've lived in Osaka, a lot of time in Tokyo, Seoul. I know big cities. Okay, big cities. New York is on another scale. It's another scale of just how dense and where and what's going on and how much of it there is and what's going on everywhere. Now, I know my way around Brooklyn entirely, Manhattan entirely, pretty good at Queens, right? But for someone who lived in New York City for years, I've been to the Bronx like, I don't know, 2 times, 3 times in my life. I never went up, but no, that's not true. I would go to Yankees games. So minus Yankee games, where I basically was just taken in by some limo or Uber or something like that. That's it, right? I mean, I went to like an Italian neighborhood to buy some food there once. I drove through a bunch, so I've driven through, but like stopped in the Bronx, never, just never, right? Not because I'm against it. The city's just too big. There's nothing to do. Who's going all the way over there? So imagine, and this is the case for many Manhattanites, for example, who've never even been to Brooklyn, right? This is very common in New York that you don't leave your borough and you get stuck there, and there's enough to do in your borough that you don't even bother. But here's what we know, right? So I'll finish. Bronx suffers from disproportionate amounts of crime, poverty, drug use, and gangs. With that in mind, let me tell you what did not happen at this rally. Trump did not put on an effective fake accent like a Zion minister Chichi Rodriguez or Chichi Rodriguez. He was simply Trump without airs or any patronizing words or thought. So he was also saying like Hillary Clinton does that voice. He did not tell the people of Bronx they were victims. He told them that they were powerful and can solve their community's problems themselves. He did not demonize any groups of Americans as the evil other. Yes, he criticized the failed policies of Democrats and poked fun at their foibles, but he reminded everyone that they were all Americans first from coast to coast. He did not promise to solve problems of the Bronx with handouts or wealth redistribution. He merely promised that he would help set the national economic conditions so the community itself could solve its own problems through jobs, business, and education. He promised empowerment, not victimhood. Contrast all of this with what Democrats would say under the same circumstances. Heck, so and even what's her name in this interview, Katie Hochul is saying, or Kathy Hochul, who's banned from Mohawk territories and Iroquois territories in New York now, called everyone who went a clown. It's perfect. It's perfect. You got Jake Tapper. Are they clowns or not? Are they clowns? Yes, they're clowns, Kathy Hochul. They're clowns, right? So he's doing his. I'm so sorry. This is such a sad mess. Jake Tapper, so sad about all the stuff, right? So he's more effeminate when he does this than Brian Stelter. He's more. What scares Democrats about this rally is that it shows them that the people whose votes they have taken for granted for many decades are starting to leave the Democrat plantation of victimhood in favor of the uplifting, empowering message of Donald Trump and his aspiration to make America a place that's great again for all Americans. And it's great, right? You can see this is what's happening, and you can see what Trump is doing here. Now, I agree. I love Donald Trump, but the point here is not to just say, oh, MAGA Republicans, right? It's not to say that. The contrast is that what Trump did by becoming president, by forcing all of these people into the light, by forcing all of these contrasts, is he really broke the fiat reality. He broke the fiat reality, not even as a Bitcoiner. He broke this propagation of the experts filtering the news, pushing it around the world, creating a fake consensus, all funded and powered by the unlimited fiat liquidity. And he was the first person that broke the fake feedback loop, the self-referential feedback loop of fiat. And it's a huge difference. It's what made us see people like James Comey as complete and total moron frauds, right? Monique Ferrazos says the following: I have to say Trump's biggest achievement was that most Americans now see these people in their raw, unfiltered form as complete frauds. There is no going back. With their legitimacy gone, the only tools they have left are unconstitutional power and the monopoly of violence, which is exactly where Bitcoiners wanted fiat. We wanted it to be a conversation about unconstrained power and violence versus, and what fuels and funds the complicity and being okay, the consensus of being okay with this stuff, the hypnotism and brainwashing required to make this kind of stuff fuel the world going around. But Trump broke that. He really broke it. And he broke it to such an extent that we now are in a position with what they did to fix the Trump situation, to put the genie back in the bottle, right? What they did was they put Joe Biden out in front. And they went on about how it was a return to morality. He's a fucking pederast with an unacknowledged grandchild, right? He was, we have Catholic, the Catholic journalist that gave him the Catholic award, right? That guy who works for the Washington Post. I can't remember his name because he's too stupid. But here's where it gets even more fun, right? Here's where it gets even more fun. I told you, Janet Yellen, the same person she's one of these people who has to say, this. So remember, Trump broke reality. They tried to fix it by putting up Biden, but it wiped them all out. Janet Yellen is on record, and we've heard it many times. This Joe Biden guy, I can't even keep up with him. He's so energetic. This Joe Biden, he's up to date on all the policies. It's Joe Biden, right? So, and then she was the one tasked. She had to go out and sell American debt. Didn't work. She had to sell a tax plan. Didn't work. What's she selling now at the G7? This is what makes it perfect, right? Janet Yellen from yesterday. The U.S. supports the EU's decision to utilize the windfall profits from frozen Russian sovereign assets. But we must also advance our collective work on the more ambitious options so we can look past concrete options to leaders, so we can look. No, hold on, let me try and read this again. She's illiterate. I didn't know how fucking illiterate she was. This is just something that came out of the stupid Janet Yellen's mouth. Let me try and read this again because it's retarded. The U.S. support. I'm not even going to read it in her accent because I have to make sure she's not, that it is legible. The U.S. supports the EU's decision to utilize the windfall profits from the frozen Russian sovereign assets, but we must also advance our collective work on more ambitious options. So we can present concrete options to leaders as we look toward the Apulia summit. Okay, there you go. So basically, her new plan is to say, steal the Russian money and use it for options for us. That's just perfect. So now Janet Yellen is going to be the point person in taking the Russian assets. Thank you. Thank you, Janet Yellen. What are we going to do without you? Hyper-Bitcoinization would not happen if it wasn't for Janet Yellen's incompetence. If we didn't know she was such a fraud, it would be a lot harder. But luckily, Janet Yellen is here for us. And we're going to win, guys. We're going to win. There's the dual. Yeah, here's the incredibly literate Janet Yellen. She's got. We love her. Love her. What do we do without old Janet Yellen? It would be hard. Things would be tough without her. But the good news is we got her and we love her. We love old Janet Yellen. All right. Oh, cool. Huh. Hold on. It's sidecarring me to my iPad, which I like, but I didn't tell it to do it this time. I wonder if I can use that for the show. There is a zoo. Yeah, I meant to go there a few times. We had a Brooklyn zoo and it was closer to my place. So I would just take my kids. We went to the Brooklyn Zoo all the time. We love that. We love that. Who does this? Definitely not the American taxpayers. No, that's not them. Mockingbirds are just a cult of bug salesmen. Jake Tapper looks so depressed. Oh, he's the best. We love him. Since I learned about Bitcoin, my personal art collection has increased and continues to. Good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, HBDC. We covered that 2 days ago. Yeah, we definitely covered that. I love and Satya's like, And guess what? We have a new feature, and it's going to remember everything you ever did. It's going to record everything you ever did on your computer. It's going to be great. Yeah. When people tell me, like, I don't trust any of them, but the answer to me to get off Apple is not as obvious as I would like it to be. What's this? Jose's got a good one. Trump destroyed the global homo illusion of fake prosperity and unity under diversity. What does Tommy say? Jake Tapper is my favorite. When he pronounces his own name, you understand exactly why he has that job. He's there to make you mad at his suckiness. Hyper Yellenization before hyper Bitcoinization. Hyper Yellenization. We're there. Can ETH ETF bring down Wall Street? Of course it can. Yeah, for sure, man. PH, that's what we want. We're here for that. We're here for, look, changing people's mindsets takes a long time. Before the Federal Reserve, Wall Street was a shitty job that only hucksters, and the same impression you have today about crypto slingers and crypto shitcoin slingers and all that is the old aristocratic view of traders and Wall Street people in the first place. Did you know that? So, for example, when Teddy Roosevelt was doing the trust busting, even being a politician at the time was low class, right? So Teddy Roosevelt going into all of this stuff was, when he did at the turn of the century, was like, he had it easy to make fun of the bank cartels because they were already low class people. Urban male, what you call global homo here, right? Now, the difference is urban male, basically what you have to peacock in order to get laid, in order to get, a woman to bang you, or a man, if that's what you're into. The city things became credentialism, fashion, all that kind of stuff. Very different from patrician, agricultural, country, male, landowning virtues that you would try and signal, right? So in most times in history, strong men from the countryside who had farms were ideal partners, and males tried to mimic those behaviors. As we urbanized, things changed. And so Teddy Roosevelt's time, if you were rich, you were like a George Washington type, like land, right? But the world was changing then. And when he started, the Wall Street trader was a scumbag city leech. The same way your impression, I bet, is for these crypto shitcoin pushers that don't know anything about Bitcoin, but are like, buy my scam coin, right? So that was the identity of the trader. Fiat and all this stuff altered that. It created a situation where the best and brightest went into the best paying jobs. They always do. The best and brightest will always go into the best paying jobs, which is why farming and cattle ranching and all that stuff attracted the best males for a long time. And because they wanted to get laid, right? It's not the farming, it's the sex. Okay. It's the sex. It's nothing to do with the farming. It's the women you get, right? That explains all of this. So the men wanted the chicks, and so they got the farms and the cows, and then the women came and said, I can have babies here, I'm going to live here, bang me. So when it became a city thing and it became about being close to Wall Street, the entire male affectation changed. What attracted women to men changed, because the best and brightest went into Wall Street because it was a high paid job. Now we got to change that, right? That has to change. And you got to go back to the cattle rancher saving in Bitcoin as the best job. That's what making saving easy will do. It will change the best paying jobs and will alter those so that it won't be financial engineer anymore. The way to destroy the financial engineer and the trader as the highest paying job is to bring in a bunch of stupid people and let them swim with the idiots. And that's what's happening. So we're moving back to a patrician male landowning aesthetic. That I think that's why the trad wife stories are there and all that stuff. It's a shifting of what gets you laid and what gets you to be able to procreate. And the city thing is just not going to be attractive anymore. So getting them to munch on as much shitcoin as we can is really the goal here. You know, I say this all the time. When you hear about this wealth transfer thing, it's from like the boomers to the millennials. No, it's not. That's not what's going on. No, that's the wrong frame. It might overlap with that. What's really going on is stupid NPCs giving us their money. And if they have to give it to us so that we can turn it into Bitcoin, that's the wealth transfer. It's shit brains into smart people with Bitcoin. It's nothing to do with generations. It's just that they have all the money in the boomer generation anyway. So we got to get that, right? And I don't care how we get it. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter how we get it. As long if it starts being converted to shit coins, eventually the physics and the gravity of this will suck it in. It's like my prediction about the politics in America focused on Bitcoin. It had nothing to do with Bitcoin. That was not why I made the prediction. It had nothing to do with that. What I said was there's physics involved, there's gravity, there's a type of gravitational force. If Trump embraces it, it will become bipolar. It will become black and white. The physics will force it into that direction. It has nothing to do with people's opinions. The mere act of Trump liking it will create the cause and effect. It will create the Newtonian reaction, action, reaction. And so what we're seeing, I think anyway, with all of these low IQ people getting involved in shitcoining and all that stuff, eventually is to just flood that world with these people. And it's all about changing the prestige. It's all about changing the prestige. And we have this generational thing that's happening, but what's really happening over top of that are the NPCs who have money, who are going to be staking fucking whatever shitcoin for yield. Just let them do it. Let them do it. Let them buy whatever crap they want. Let them go with whatever scam they're interested in, because eventually the point here is to move it into Bitcoin. And it's not about getting the money out of the boomers' hands necessarily. It's about getting the money out of the NPCs who actually don't understand how fiat works. It's about getting it out of their hands. And so that could be anyone on Wall Street, anyone who's out there saying, "Oh, I want the whatever shitcoin I want the BSV ETF." Okay, I want them all of them. So, because eventually the physics will create a situation where, as these things fall apart, it'll all get sucked up into Bitcoin. And so now the maxis are right about not fucking with shitcoins. So I'm not saying for you to go fuck with shitcoins, right? It is a dangerous game. Even myself, who is as plugged into all this shit as you can imagine, even I know how risky and dangerous it is. Even knowing the people isn't enough. All right. So if you think there is some like cabal of knowing this VC and then you'll make it, that's not what's happening, right? Even for them, it's hard. Even for them, it's hard. I know all the VCs that are well placed. They have the troubles that you and I have, that everyone has. It's not as collusion-y as you think it is. They're all fighting each other, right? So it's not as simple as you think it is. So but the point in the end is that we have all these folks, and there's a lot of dumb people out there, and we're not going to be able to teach them all about Bitcoin. They're not all going to have an epiphany, right? And anyway, what's the best way to understand about Bitcoin? Losing in shitcoinery. That's the way to understand it. That's the number one best way. There isn't a better way. There is not a better way. And so we've got to just hope. We can nag people all day. You need to learn about Austrian economics, and you need to know about the difference in it's not going to work. It doesn't work. That stuff doesn't work, right? We've been nagging people for years. It never worked. It will never work. And what you require is just reality. And reality is here, and it can't be suppressed. It can't be ignored. The end of Wall Street being the number one job for males to get laid is over. It's over. It's not going to work anymore. And so doing this whole thing and watching this exercise happen before our eyes is going to be the best education we can get. In the end, the maxis are right. In the end, the financial system simplifies. It's just about easy, low IQ, saving your money, be good at your job, save your money in Bitcoin. You don't have to be a financial engineer. You don't have to stake fucking whatever shitcoin on whatever DeFi exchange. None of that's important, right? What's important is that we suck all the money out of the NPCs. And I don't care what way it happens. To me, it's the line from Apocalypse Now, right? I believe in this entirely. You remember the point of Apocalypse Now, based on the book Heart of Darkness? right? Harrison Ford and the general come in and they tell Martin Sheen, the Kurtz character, you're going to go up the river and you're going to kill this guy, Marlon Brando's character, Marlowe. Or no, other way around, Marlowe and Kurtz. You're going to go kill this guy, and and we're charging him with murder. And so Martin Sheen is thinking about it, the character, and he's like, geez, we're in Vietnam. Charging someone for murder here is like handing out speeding tickets at the Indy 500. Like, it makes no sense. Everyone's murdering, right? Everybody's murdering. And so I use the same logic when I think of Bitcoiners complaining about shitcoiners and crypto people. This is the world we're in, guys. And for now, this is life. In the future, murder will be a bad thing, right? Just like in the future, financial crimes and scamming people will be a bad thing. But we've got to absolutely reprogram people before we get there. They need to be reprogrammed. They need to be rebooted. We're not there yet. So as long as this is as crazy as it is, you got to go with the throbbing, big bad throbbing erectionist. I say throbbing accelerationist, right? I have a giant throbbing accelerationist. That's what I think, right? And yeah, most people need to lose the hard way. I don't want to see them lose. If you can listen to the maxis in the long run, you're going to be better off. But that's just one option. Now, I'm glad they're there, right? I'm glad they're there. I'm glad there's people praying for souls, Christians praying for the souls of the heathens around the world. That's all important, right? But what kind of Christian evangelist ever made their way to someone who wouldn't hear the message because they were too self-involved and self-indulgent and had some ambition that was totally averse to what's in the Christian Bible? Like, did it work? Read the Bible. Get the fuck out of here. It's the same with money. The humans are wired that way. There's no difference, right? So I wish education was enough. I've devoted years of my life to educating about Bitcoin, but I've seen the stupid glassy-eyed thing. What's going on? I remember I had a friend come up to me when the SBF thing just broke, not understanding that I had anything to do with catching him, which I had a small role in the SBF story, right? Saw it coming and sort of was talking with the CoinDesk folks months before it happened. And so this guy can't, and this is someone who I've been telling him about self-custody for years and all this shit, right? And so he comes up to me at a party the weekend, basically the SBF stuff happened. He goes, I lost fucking money. Why did you buy? And I was like, dude, you literally didn't listen to a fucking word I said. You being mad at me for you losing money in FTX is more insulting for you than for me. Because if you would have spent, as a good friend, 10 seconds listening to me, you would have known that I hated SBF. I was out to get him from the beginning, and that I would have never, ever, 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 ever told you to fuck around on FTX, the exchange, ever. And he was like, Now, that's where it is, Daniel says, season 3 is hotter than India, hotter than Mexico, hotter than Thailand. It's so good. Jose says, shit, it keeps sending me to the thing. I don't nag people anymore. It doesn't work. Yeah, call them poor is better. Yes, that's an excellent, that's a much better way of dealing with it, right? I've been calling them poor for a long time. I'm liking the use of the screen. Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate it. More whiteboard. There will be. Yeah, best way to get laid now is to have a big fat. I think there was a story even the other day. There was a story on this, by the way, saying like holding crypto can get you laid now and all these places. I always believe that. By the way, when we were in Hong Kong, I've never seen at a Bitcoin event. I mean, I've never seen this many girls. It was way more girls than guys. And it's something my wife said when we were in Amsterdam last time, because it was the opposite last autumn in Amsterdam with all dudes, Europe, right? And she was, pretty handsome guys in general, right? They're like Bitcoiners, nice folks looking for families and all that stuff. And she said, just talking to all these people, she said, I'm going to tell all my girlfriends, like, I don't know how this isn't a thing. Like, how do girls not know that their best chance of meeting a rich guy is to come to Bitcoin events. Like, how is this not a thing? Asia, they knew, really, it's a thing. It's a thing. All right, team, that's all I got. And indeed, I got to put one story up there because veterans cannabis won't let us forget. Indeed, happy holidays to all our beautiful American viewers. I'm a big fan of the Memorial Day holiday, one of my favorites. If you're from abroad and you don't know, this is the unofficial start of summer in America. So, for example, this weekend, all of our boardwalk beach restaurants and rides and games and everything opens up this weekend. So it's the start of any summer season building, especially in New England, where we really are 4 seasons, right? My ski hill just closed 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago it closed they opened for the weekend while I was in Hong Kong. So so winter is definitely over and all of our summery stuff is about to begin. We're starting the farmers markets. It's a major weekend in America, and we're going to enjoy it. It's the beginning of our fireworks season, right? So it's a big barbecue time. It started as a war thing, right? This is a Civil War holiday in America. It started with the Civil War, about honoring the dead people from the war, and so that's a big part of it. Veterans Cannabis-y, thank you for your service, Jose says. Indeed, Veterans Cannabis, thank you for your service. I'm a big fan. I love Memorial Day, and it's a much more. We have the same thing in the Commonwealth countries, but it's Remembrance Day, November 11th, and it's not quite as powerful as the American one to launch summer with a real kind of party to honor the people who have sacrificed themselves for America. It's not as sad or morose. It's in fact, it's like Christmas. It gets criticized in America for not being about remembering the death and just having and the sacrifice, just having parties. I'm not going to go that far. I don't mind how people do it. Enough Americans salute and have respect for the intention of our servicemen in uniform. So maybe not the reality of it, but there you go. We're big fans of this holiday, and I'm going to be in America tomorrow in order to celebrate. I can't wait. I'll be in Vermont for a few days. I'm headed to Texas next week. So there you go. Lots of America in my schedule. All right, team. That's all I got for today. Have a great holiday weekend. I will not be going live on the Monday because I think I might be at my mom's again or something. We'll see. Maybe I will go. We'll see. I'll let you know over the weekend. I'll let you know. Peace, everyone. See you soon.